James Johnston Waring was born in Savannah in 1829 to Dr. and Mrs. William Waring. Both parents died by the time he was 14 years old. He graduated from Yale College in 1850 and earned his master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania in 1852. For the next 3 years, he moved from Dublin to St. Bartholomew's Hospital in London, then to Paris. Dr. Waring returned to the United States in 1856, married Mary Alston in Waccamaw, South Carolina, settled in Washington City, and soon became a professor at the National Medical College. In 1859, he was elected surgeon at the Washington Infirmary. But war drums were beating, Georgia seceded from the Union, and Dr. Waring returned to Georgia, but was temporarily arrested by Confederate authorities. He was assigned a post as surgeon for the Provisional Army of the Confederacy, a grueling and heartbreaking experience for Civil War doctors. But Dr. Waring was sympathetic toward freedmen. In 1868, he posted bond for some black men who were charged with riotous behavior. Perhaps they were celebrating freedom or tried to vote in the 1868 general election between presidential candidates Ulysses Grant, Republican from Illinois, and Horatio Seymour, Democrat from New York. The black vote was a hot issue in the North and South. Or the offenders might have been involved in the strike of 1867 when about 300 black and white longshoremen walked off the job. At any rate, this offense led to Dr. Waring's expulsion from the Medical Society of Georgia for behavior that was, quote, ungentlemanly, end quote. Waring sued. The Medical Society lost the case in the Georgia Supreme Court. In another expression of concern for the plight of black people, Waring bucked the tide. General Sherman signed Field Order 15, confiscating plantation lands for redistribution to freed blacks. Despite appearances, President Abraham Lincoln and Vice President Andrew Johnson never did see eye to eye on all issues of the Union. Following Abraham Lincoln's assassination and Andrew Johnson's ascendance to the presidency, Johnson rescinded the order, returning the land to white owners. But freed slaves had already taken up residence on the lands, including nearby Skidaway Island, and were understandably in a difficult situation and very angry. The Waring family owned over 1,200 acres on Skidaway, so Waring rented land on the island to the freedmen so they could attain financial independence. Meanwhile, Dr. Waring continued to live in town here at 3 West Perry Street, across from Chippewa Square in Brown Ward. Since the late 18th century, many American cities had been struck with yellow fever epidemics. Savannah was no different. The cause was unknown, though many believed it was carried by foul air, a miasma, arising from nearby swamps. We know it was carried by mosquitoes that were active during hot and humid summer months. The disease was a death sentence to most who contracted it. Intense pain, madness, and black vomit were its dreaded symptoms. Savannah was hit hard in 1876. Dr. Waring was called upon to study its causes, effects, and to report with a plan to eradicate it once and for all. His report, published in 1879, identified contributing factors, presented a better understanding of its causes, called for improved sanitation and drainage of low-lying areas surrounding the city. Dr. Waring died after a prolonged illness on January 8, 1888 at the age of 58 and was buried in Laurel Grove Cemetery, Savannah, in the family mausoleum. His son, Pinckney Alston Waring, was co-executor along with his mother, Mary, of Dr. Waring's estate. The Savannah Morning News of March 25, 1899 described it as, quote, a large and valuable tract of land already divided into lots in the southern portion of the city, end quote. The lots were released to Pinckney and his siblings for building as a source of future revenue. These included some of the lots in Lee Ward to the north and in Waring Ward, which we'll explore now. Waring Ward is within Savannah's Victorian district, which, sadly, was neglected for many years. Most of the buildings were constructed around the turn of the 20th century. It features charming frame homes, often with cupolas, turrets, bay windows, gingerbread millwork, and playful colors. Due to years of indifference, though, many of the homes were in severe disrepair, so were demolished. Thankfully, most new homes are built in Victorian style and fit in well with the rest of the neighborhood. Here's an empty lot, prime for new construction between these 21st century residences and the next multifamily dwelling dating to around 1900. Here's an attractive item, 418 East Duffy Street. Looks like it's divided into apartments now, but was probably built as a storefront below with living quarters above. Sounds like an ideal arrangement. Moving on, we come to 404 through 410 East Duffy Street. These apartments were built in 1894 for Dr. Waring's estate. This handsome home at 401 East Duffy is unlike any other in the ward. Built in 1896 for George King, it was undoubtedly built as a primary residence, perhaps with separate apartments. This colorful residence at 409 East Duffy Street was another in this neighborhood, constructed for Dr. Waring's estate. These multifamily dwellings, 415 through 423 East Duffy, were built in 1911 for Minna Waring, the youngest daughter of Dr. and Mrs. James Waring. The final building on our tour is the Anderson Street School at 412 East Anderson, at the southernmost edge of Waring Ward. This magnificent public institution was designed by renowned Swedish architect Godfrey L. Norman. This ends our look at Dr. Waring's legacy and Waring Ward. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. To learn more, lots more, click on the description below for the show notes.